95.1 FM, 790 AM, KFYO, as we broadcast live today from the Texas State Capitol inside the office of Representative John Frullo. And of course, our show brought to you today by our good friends at H&H Trailers, Cactus Theater, and Galatia Insurance. And in studio, in the office today, I have Speaker Pro Tem and Chairman Dennis Bonnen. Thanks for coming in today.
Glad to be here.
I appreciate it. And again, you are chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee.
Yes, sir.
So tell folks exactly what that means as far as your job goes here.
What it means is that really all tax-related matters come through our committee. So if you want to raise a tax, lower a tax, we like the lower the tax part best. It all comes through our committee. And so we actually have a direct connection into the state budget, because if we don't have money, I can't pass those tax cut bills out the way I'd like to.
Right.
And like last session, when we did have money, we were able to cut the margins tax 25% across the board. We were able to do a homestead exemption increase of $10,000. So we are responsible for the taxes in Texas.
One of the major pieces of legislation coming out of the Senate, making its way to the House, is SB 2.
Yes.
Talk to our audience a little bit about what SB 2 would do and what your committee, what y'all are going to take a look at with it, and how it would affect not only the local governments, but the average taxpayer. Absolutely,
and that's where the real issue comes in. So there's SB 2. I also filed House Bill 15, but we'll take up SB 2. And the reality of it is, one thing SB 2 is not, that some people have been mistaken in suggesting it is not something that cuts property taxes. It will not lower your property taxes. It's not intended to. It's not what it should be able to do. What it's intended to do is, the state of Texas has no role in setting rates, appraisals, and those things. That property tax is a local tax. But what the state has a responsibility for is the process, the procedure by which our local entities collect that tax. So what Senate Bill 2 is about is creating a better, more transparent, easier understood, and easier to petition process for our citizens and our local governments. So what the intention is if you look at what I put into House Bill 15, which I'm proud that Senator Bettencourt picked up and put into Senate Bill 2, is the no new tax rate. And the intention of that is, presently today, our taxpayers have no ability to understand how all this works and what it means. And I mean no disrespect to local electeds, but I see it around the state where someone will say, we lowered the tax rate, and they did, but your taxes didn't go down.
Right.
And that's where our taxpayers get very confused, and more significantly and more appropriately, angry. And they're right to. Your taxes go up, and you go to the local entities and say, did you get a little more money? No, no. Did you? No, no. Not me, not me. All our taxpayers want is to be able to understand. They want to know who to hold accountable. And when I say hold accountable, it doesn't mean you're going to vote them out of office. You want to have an intelligent, respectful discussion with that county commissioner or city councilman or school board member. Okay, well, so you needed more money from me and my neighbors for the city or the school. Tell me why. And reasonable constituents, if they are spoken to intelligently, usually will say, I think that's fair, or they may say, I don't agree with that. But right now, the process isn't in a position to have that dialogue because people can't understand it. We have a lot of local electeds who can't understand it. So it's to create that no new tax rate so that our citizens, our taxpayers can say, that rate right there, if you vote for any rate above that, you're asking for more money. If you vote for that rate, you're staying equal. And you go below it, thank you, you lowered my taxes. And that's the simplicity and the transparency that our taxpayers deserve. And it's something that I think local officials should also enjoy having, because it provides them the ability to have a clear understanding with their taxpayers as to what projects they're needing to fund and why and how they're doing it.
Of course, you know this, some of the locally elected folks probably don't see it your way.
Sure.
They see the state of Texas infringing on local control.
And I reject that completely.
And I want you to talk about that, because it's come up in the last two sessions.
Correct.
This argument between where's the line between local control and when the state gets involved, whether it's plastic bag bans or whether it's property taxes. So Where's that line in your mind?
Yeah, in the issue of property taxes, the line is what I laid out in the very beginning. The state's role is clear. We set the process, the procedure by which the local entities assess and collect the property tax. We have no role in what that rate is, what that assessment is, and those things. So we should not be in that business. And I hope that if we can pass Senate Bill 2, the state will get out of that business. But without question, our role is that we have the responsibility of the process. We are the people who should be blamed by our taxpayers for not having a easier understood, a more transparent system for taxpayers. That's our fault. We're trying to fix it. Now, what the local officials don't like is that there's an automatic rollback election. The Senate passed it at a 5%, and that's what the local guys don't like, because they believe that they should have the authority as locally elected to do whatever they want on that. I don't completely disagree with them. I think that's where the line, you come up to that line of local control. Mm-hmm. Now, again, that is a part of the process, though. The state, again, has a responsibility. If we want to set that into the process of how they do this, we absolutely can, and I don't think we're overstepping their local control, but I absolutely respect the position a local leader would take in saying, hey, really that's up to me. But all we're saying is you need to, at that point, go talk to your voters. Allow them to tell you it makes sense, I agree with you, to ask for that much more money to do these things.
What are some pieces of legislation? I know you've authored many pieces of legislation. What are your priorities? What would you like to see get done on pieces of legislation that you've authored?
Well, and they're bills that I've signed on to, some I'm leading on, some not. One of the most important bills that I know Representative Frullo, the Speaker, and others, the Senate, are interested in is sanctuary cities. It's a very important issue. I imagine up where you guys up in the Panhandle, you probably don't have any sanctuary cities, fortunately. But it's a real issue because even Dallas or Austin or Travis County and their behavior, it affects our communities. It affects my communities down south of Houston on the coast. So sanctuary cities is a very important issue that we need to address and resolve this session.
Let's talk about the relationship between the House and the Senate. And I hear on the show a lot from people who say the House isn't getting anything done. The House isn't getting anything done. There are some organizations that say House isn't getting anything done. The House isn't getting anything done. Look at what all the Senate has done. What is the relationship like between the House and the Senate? And are we going to see more of, I guess, the headline grabbing bills get through in the House?
Absolutely. And there are kind of two issues. Why haven't we been doing more? It's kind of funny. A lot of the folks that are saying the House hasn't got anything done consider themselves to be particularly conservative, which I'm particularly conservative. Well, the irony of it is there's this nasty little thing called the Constitution that I believe in. And in the Constitution it says that you can't pass a bill, you can't bring a bill to the floor in the Texas House in the first 60 days. So that little Constitution that I believe in, and I think most of these people believe in, is a bit hamstringing in doing that. Doesn't mean we can't. And the irony of it is, why does the great state of Texas have in their Constitution that you can't bring a bill to the floor in the first 60 days? It's because our citizens want less government. I want less government. So that's what's going on. There is not going to be any time problem or any issue for the House to not pass these headline-grabbing bills that need to be passed, and we are committed to getting that done. Now, the relationship between the House and the Senate is that we have a unique situation in that we have a lieutenant governor and a Senate who likes to grab the headlines, and we have a much calmer, much more statesman-like leader in Speaker Straus, who would prefer to keep his head down and get his business done, and is not about a headline, not about if everyone knows his name, and not about whether everyone is talking about the Texas House. But they also don't have the constitutional and rules restrictions in the Senate, so they're able to pass those bills, and we're glad they have. There's no problem for us in them doing that whatsoever. We're pleased to see them do it, and we're excited that we're now at the point where we can bring these bills to the floor to get those going. Many of these bills have already been heard. Sanctuary Cities was heard, I believe, last week, the week before, in our State Affairs Committee in the House. So that's the other thing, too. You know, there's a process, and you have to pay attention to that process and see the work is getting done. It's being laid out to bring these issues forward, and there's a commitment to get them done. But the relationship between the House and Senate is like it always is. It's like twin brothers, and some days we love each other and would kill someone who came at one of us.
Right.
And other days you're wondering if we're going to kill each other. But in the end, we always come together to do what's best.
Let me ask you about one piece of legislation, and it seems there's contention in the Senate, there's contention in the House, and that is over education, school choice versus funding more public education. What do you think we're going to end up looking like once this session is all said and done? What do you think it's going to look like?
I don't know. That would be hard to predict. What I hope will happen is that we do a better job of funding K through 12 public education. You know, we were talking a minute ago about property taxes, low tax. Well, at the end of the day, if you want lower property taxes, the most direct, transparent way to do it is for the state to better fund public ed. It's real simple. It is the most direct way to put dollars into the system and reduce the local property tax. So the House has a bill, Chairman Huberty, to put about $1.6 billion additional dollars into public education. The Senate doesn't have any similar proposal of that type at this time. They are talking far more about vouchers and those type things. The House probably doesn't have the votes to pass vouchers. We have members that are from areas that, quite candidly, we're 98% reliant on our public schools. And so the attitude of not all, but most House members is, we need to do the dead level best for public education, and that isn't simply give it more money. If there are things that need to change, let's change it. We need to improve it, because our citizens are reliant on it to have a healthy future for their children.
What is something, before I let you go, what is a piece of legislation that people need to pay attention to that they're not right now?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I don't really have a good answer for it. Because, you know,
don't mean to throw a curveball at you, but
honestly, it's a great question, and I don't know what I could give you on that, because, you know, one of the problems with session that people also don't recognize sometimes, you know, there are a couple thousand, you know, I think there were 5,000 or 6,000 bills filed. So really, we just get the fire hose turned on us, and you're just trying to drink out of that thing and keep going. So I apologize, I don't have a good answer for you.
No, that's fine. I just, you know,
but it's a great question.
It's something that, you know, popped into my mind, and because there's always that one piece of legislation in a session that gets through that either no one saw it coming or, oh wow, that was a really good piece.
And sadly, to your point, we usually figure that out months after it's over. That's the unfortunate part some of the time. Unintended consequences.
Chairman, appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming to Austin.
Absolutely. Always love coming to Austin, Texas, and doing the show from the Capitol. Let's do this. Let's roll this final break, and when we come back, we'll take your phone calls as we broadcast live from the state capitol, brought to you by H&H Trailers, Cactus Theater, and Galatia Insurance. Chad Hasty Show on KFYO.